I'd practiced stand to several times, several million times in the British Army and Ukrainian Army. But this time we had to do it for real at 4 o'clock in the morning. We were stood to and we were told Russia crossed the border.
When the war broke out in Ukraine, Shaun Pinner was a retired British Army soldier living in Mariupol with his wife and family. He joined up to the Ukrainian armed forces and fought in the front line, where he led a section of men and was eventually captured by the Russians. He joins me now. Shaun, first of all, was it an easy or a hard decision for you when the full-scale invasion came to decide to put a uniform back on again?
First of all, thank you for having me. Yeah, well, I lived in Ukraine since 2018. I was married to a Ukrainian. I was pretty much integrated into the military quite quickly because of my 9 years in the British military. I fell in love with the culture, fell in love with Mariupol, met my wife in Mariupol. I had a house on the left bank. So it was very much an easy decision for me to make to stay, despite my parents saying, you don't have to stay. And I was saying, well, I'd worked with these guys for 5 years. Why did I want to leave? And left bank was my home. So for me, it was very much an easy decision to make to stay and fight for my home.
And how chaotic were those first few days of the war?
Well, not many people ask me about the first days. They always talk about the torture or the capture or how did you survive. The gallows humour is quite a big, part of my life. I'm quite a humorous man anyway. So, that being amongst comrades and people that were of that same ilk, despite being Ukrainian and some Brits that were there, Aidan Aslan being one of them, we had that unique sense of humour. So we tried to deal with a lot of the bad situations that were being presented to us on those opening days with humour, but it's the most scariest time I've ever encountered. I practiced stand to several times, several million times in the British Army and Ukrainian Army, but this time we had to do it for real at 4 o'clock in the morning. We were stood to and we were told Russia crossed the border. And I was on a routine deployment from December 2021. I was actually situated in the trenches 2 months before the invasion actually happened. So for us, we'd seen the build up to it and experienced a lot of the artillery. And for us, the invasion didn't start on the 24th of February. It started about 2-3 weeks earlier when they started bombing Telekivka, and quite quickly the situation changed and escalated. New drone technology was coming in, and we were able to drop ordnance at night. They were picking up thermals at night through drones. The situation radically changed in the media. Press was saying they were moving from from Mariupol to Dnipro, and we didn't get very long before the Russians were on us that morning, and it was 11 hours of intense fighting before we were relieved, and then somebody else picked up the fighting while we had a bit of a break on the second line. But we were then retreating back to Mariupol, which we knew would be the case.
And tell me about your capture then and being held by Russian soldiers, because it sounds just hell on earth.
Well, I started trying to escape after 7 weeks of fighting in Mariupol at Ilachar, which was a steelworks north of Azovstal. Azovstal gets all the press, but there were 2 steelworks, and the Marines where I was at Ilachar had really run out of food and ammunition. So we were quite emaciated and hungry, and we didn't have a way of fighting anymore until our commanders said we're going to try and break out. It was never an option for us to surrender, so we opted to try and break out of Mariupol, which we were ambushed, and I was started as escaping evasion, and I was captured about 2 hours outside Mariupol, trying to find food and water, get an idea of where we were. And then literally the Donetsk People's Republic forces caught me about 2 hours outside Mariupol, and then I was taken to Donetsk. My initial capture, we always know it's the most dangerous part of a capture. It's the most time because of the unpredictability, whether you'll live or die. As soon as I was captured, I was stabbed in the leg. And then they didn't want me running anywhere. My Russian is pretty good, but I still speak Ruskish, which is like I've still got that accent. So I was always going to be picked up as being someone of interest. I came up with a plan to say I was English, so it hopefully get them on the back foot and they wouldn't shoot me on the front line. But tried to get through that initial capture without being injured. And unfortunately, I was stabbed in the leg and then handed to the Russians, Russian regulars, where they electrocuted me, beat me, and then took me to Donetsk.
And how long were you held before your release?
Several months. I was taken to a black site for 50 days where I was starved. I wasn't fed. During those 50 days, I had more electrocutions on my ears. We were given bread every other day. A lot of the times we didn't eat at all. So when my trial came up, they wanted to charge me as being a Nazi mercenary terrorist, which, as you know, anybody that doesn't fall into that Russian category of what they deem as being what they want as normal is automatically a Nazi. And I lived in Mariupol, those denazifying Ukrainians. It's just hogwash. It's for me, I'm a Russian speaker. My wife's from Crimea. She's a Russian speaker. I identify as Ukrainians, and all my friends that were Russian speaking Ukrainians are now dotted all around Europe. So
well, it sounds like sorry, I was going to say, Shaun, it sounds like an amazing story. You've put it all down in a book. It's called Live, Fight, Survive. It's been published this week, and thank you so much for telling your story to us here today. Stick with us. We're on air through until 4 p.m. Coming up on this special programme on the war in Ukraine, we hear from the former boxing world champion, now mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, on the importance not just of winning the war, but of developing the Ukrainian economy. The party leader and People's Deputy, Kira Rudik, takes us inside Ukraine's parliament building as martial law was declared in the dark. I travel down to Mykolaiv in the south and walk some of the minefields laid by retreating Russian soldiers. All that and more in the next 60 minutes.